when you see this, please don't look at it from a defensive perspective as a XRP investor. Instead, you can actually see the aggressive movements if you are updated with relevant facts. Now, what does MoneyGram and Western Union as an organization do? Mainly remittance, right? So let's dig in deep through that pipeline. Most of it goes to India, then China, then Mexico, Philippines, and then Pakistan. So we can kind of cross China here because the digitization in China has reached another level. It's completely different from the entire world, mainly if you are looking at the transaction area. But the other area is India, Philippines, Mexico. And if you actually go through, you actually have other countries where expats are sending money like Egypt, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Yemen, South Sudan. So if we look deep into these countries, what can we understand? The majority of their GDP is actually coming through remittances. So the partnerships for remittance using fintechs and other institutions are actually a key for that. Now let's look at it based on the current scenario as well, like the crisis is actually hitting, right? So it is the crisis mode. Current health crisis has actually emerged, and in this particular article, which is showing that they both have actually to merge to survive this. But if we actually zoom a bit out and look at what happened previously, we can actually see these, right? How the coronavirus lockdown transformed MoneyGram. So in this particular one, if you look clearly, you can see Ripple and XRP for instant settlement. If you read here, you can actually see that MoneyGram's digital offering and improving its operational efficiencies, for example, partnering with Ripple to use XRP for instant FX settlements. The way of going digital was the actual way to move forward. That was the correct thing to do. Now, we saw that India is the main area where the remittances are going, right? The main direction of remittances. Yeah, there is China, Mexico, Philippines, and we'll also look into those corridors as well. Now, first one is in India. When we are looking at this particular corridor, they have actually done strategic partnerships and positioned themselves in a better path. Now, why I say that? If we actually check at documents like this one, say from EFMA, when they're actually reviewing this, say preparing for the future, and in this entire article, when we actually read through that, we can understand one thing for sure. If you have to survive as a financial service provider, currently you have to actually evolve. And how you need to evolve? The need to evolve has led an unprecedented number of bank and fintech partnership. Fintechs are able to achieve scale much quicker than the infrastructure and network of an established institution. So when you actually say Western Union is, the giant network of established, but if you're actually competing with something like a RippleNet or, having a lot of more partnership with fintech, it's going to be really hard for Western Union to actually compete. Otherwise, they'll have to give their services for free. Because when we actually look at this, the current scenario, this is what is being advocated. After COVID-19, bank plus fintech partnerships, how this can be happening. Because if they are not doing it properly, they're going to be kicked out of it. So we just talked about this, right? They are actually increasing their locations in India. They currently have around 40,000 locations around the country. Now, that is not only the point. The point is their new partnerships. They are actually partnering with more and more institutions, and they are offering this zero, as low as zero. Wow. If you can do that, then the customers are going to float into you. If you're giving even for the fees is just $1 for your transaction, then that's really affordable for majority of the expats from different countries. This is another partnership which emerged this year. MoneyGram teams with EbixCash in India. EbixCash is another giant network in India. Now the second one is MoneyGram partners with Lulu. Now why is this important? If you actually look at the entire India as a remittance market, you can see that it actually comes from Middle East. A lot of it comes from Middle East. See UAE in particular, Saudi in particular, Qatar. So in that area, Lulu Group is a giant group. And along with UAE Exchange, Lulu Group and other partnerships of MoneyGram makes it so affordable and the network is so giant now. So competing with MoneyGram is becoming a bit difficult for Western Union. Now we just saw that the second market after China was like Mexico and Philippines. So this one is the next one in Philippines. MoneyGram strengthens its partnership with Gcash in Philippines. So they are actually extending that. Then when we move, we can say this: MoneyGram will expand the service to Spain and Philippines using Visa Direct. So now they are increasing their partnerships, they are reaching out, they are expanding. Now this can be actually seen as an aggressive expansion. Now the next one we saw was in Egypt, right? Countries like other countries was like Egypt, Sri Lanka, Nepal and all. So this one is towards Egypt. So if you're actually looking at the recent news, at least past couple of years, we can actually understand MoneyGram has really positioned themselves to actually go digital, and that is really helping them with the current crisis. Now this is another partnership in another area, which is Far East in Korea, right? They are partnered with Zenbi. That happened last year, and since that time, personally, I'm using Zenbi. Previously, say there was a lot of competition here, like Gcash, even the bank. Now you can't actually compare banks. Say for example, they are charging you $40-50 for a transaction. At the same time, previously they use Zenbi and all used to take the fees for $5. Currently, they're doing it below $1. Wow, for me that's a wow moment. And I think every expat who are using this service will feel that, and automatically you will inform your friends. Now that is the reason why the traditional institution like MoneyGram is partnering with fintech. Now this is another partnership in the same region, that is with E9Pay. If you look at the date, that's May 19, 2020. So in just last 2 years, they have actually positioned themselves very well. So looking at this one, I really feel that it's not this way around, it's actually this way around, because MoneyGram has really transformed. They are digital now, and that is kind of a reason why they are trying to merge. I'll say that, because even in this one, when we actually look at that, we can actually understand that yes, the number of locations where MoneyGram is present is 350,000, whereas Western Union has around 500,000 agents. But considering the partnerships of MoneyGram with EbixCash, Zenbi, it's kind of digital, so you can actually consider the location. If you want to do that, you don't have to go to that agent. You can sit at your home and do that. I don't actually go out to do the remittance. I just sit at my home and use my mobile sometimes or a laptop. So that's so easy for an expat to do this. So why I'm saying this is the market of the entire business of MoneyGram and Western Union. So if they are to compete, Western Union has to go this way. So if you remember in that interview, the CEO of Western Union was stating that we are open for any savings, technology, blah blah blah. So automatically they will have to adopt that, or their market share will reduce eventually. From there, I would actually like to shift into this area where a scientific approach towards the price of the digital asset space, in which we can be expecting a fluctuation, as we previously discussed, and that may be the future of the prices. And what we are kind of advising, these research which are actually happening is kind of advice for giant institutions who are actually heading into the investment arena of digital assets. So this is advisor perspectives for cryptocurrency, and this is actually recent research publications which I'm actually showing you guys. This one in May 27, 2020, and this one is also new, 29th May 2020. So what is showing in this is, particularly we are currently looking at a Ripple or XRP. Okay, they have actually done their research based on Bitcoin, Ethereum and Ripple. So if you actually consider what these guys also have executed, this is kind of more similar. Now yes, the algorithm or the trend which they have used is different, but the finding comes like yes, it's kind of similar. Now if we actually look at this, we can actually see FinCash model is kind of the distribution which is kind of going through with the price fluctuation of a Ripple as an asset. Now, okay, going through the entire article will be kind of difficult to understand. Personally being a researcher, I kind of find this not that hard to digest while reading it, but I'll try to put that in an easy perspective for you guys to actually understand it. Now this is for Ripple. They are using the time series plot for Ripple and price and its return. So now if you actually go to the conclusion, they have used multiple algorithms, equations to actually plot different models, and the conclusion is simple. These are actually following long-term memory in price volatility. So if you are actually looking at these charts, you should understand one thing. They are kind of having long memory. Now this is not because of the prices having the memory, it is because of the investors are looking for that particular area for opportunity. See, if you actually look at this, you can see that ETH was going up and XRP was stable. It was consolidating, it didn't start to move. It was then it consolidated, went into a correction and started to move upside. Still at that time, XRP was, going down, naysayers, blah, blah, blah. Everyone was bashing XRP. Now, if you look at BTC also, it was in a continuous uptrend all the way from that bottom. It was never going down like XRP did. But when you see one particular point, it just blasted, right? Boom, boom, boom. So that really happened previously. Now if you look at the entire fluctuation, we can actually see that majority are coming out and saying, you see, XRP is going to zero, kind of that thing, which is not scientifically supported. If you actually go through the actual fluctuation and the volatility, you can understand these are kind of similar. 80%, 90%, 95% retracement, kind of tracing around that area. If you see, the XRP went around 0.11, currently around 0.2, so it kind of doubled in the value from the bottom. So if you actually look at that in a scientific manner, you can actually see that it's gonna repeat itself. And last time when it actually blew up like this, if you consider the bottom of that cycle, it went 1430x. Now that is a huge ROI on your investment if you were to wait for that long, meaning that bottom was around in 2015. So if you're considering that, it's like 3 years from that bottom. Now that takes a lot of patience to wait till that particular time, right? That is for sure. Now if you actually look at this one, they are actually talking about this is going to be happening. The only difference here is this one for BTC had a hyperbolic gauge, whereas for Ether it was a fractional integrated gauge. But finally for XRP it's a Fibonacci itself. So in that aspect, if we are actually looking at that, it's kind of similar to that of Ether. That's what I would like to say. So in the charts, when we are assessing that, and majority of XRP holders, if they are not true holders, they will move into other assets which are pumping, and eventually lose the time or opportunity to accumulate the asset with the maximum potential for the ROI. Now yes, at the same time, if you are looking at XRP, you will see a same scientific method will be suitable for XLM as well, based on the price and volatility. Now at the same time, I would also like to highlight this: the changes are actually happening. Now this kind of coincides with the first news which we discussed about the MoneyGram and all, because the payments entire landscape is changing. Why? Because it was previously we used cash mostly. Now it's a kind of going extinct. If you look at China, there is nothing like cash there. In that aspect, with the current crisis, everything is actually changing. E-wallet is coming soon. Now this is in the EU zone, right? The central bank digital currency is coming towards you. Now this can be looked at like a different approaches. It can be a retail CBDC, it can be a synthetic CBDC, but the majority of the transactions are happening for institutions, and that's going to be a wholesale CBDC, and that is a chance which they are actually looking. Now at the same time, when you are going down, previously we actually understood that Italian banking system was kind of entirely going into RippleNet, and they are going to use R3 as well. That's also a permissioned blockchain network, but the settlement is different there. In this particular network, it's a messaging network, not a settlement network. So they actually need a settlement system to do that. So as we come down, we can see another blockchain project here for Singapore, and they talk about tested real-time gross settlements in 2017. So the projects for like Jasper, Ubin, these kind of projects have been going on from 2-3 years, and now they are coming to a conclusion, and they are going to roll out this central bank digital currency stuff. Now, when this is coming out, like this is also a new article, right? It's not old. When these are actually going to actually roll out, you have to actually keep in mind interoperability of these systems will be key. As Brad Garlinghouse and Dave Choss stated previously, these are going to be something with, each country is going to create their own walled garden, and within those individual country corporations are going to create their own walled gardens like JPM coin, blah 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 coin, blah 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 coin. But end of the day, it should be interoperable, and for that, systems are going to be laid out and alternative approaches to enable the interoperability. They are looking at central bank digital currency. Maybe it's hybrid, maybe two ledger upgrades, but what they are looking at, the key is interoperability. So if you remember the speech from Chris Larsen, then interoperability is the key which RippleNet gives them, right? The entire infrastructure, when they are using that payment platform, the cost is so low. Now, when we actually go into directly jumping into some of the area and then reading through these aspects, say this chapter, interoperability with central bank digital currency, and then going into the final remarks gives a bit more clarity. For here, it's clear they did talk about hybrid at the top, but they didn't actually mention synthetic. But when we actually come to the bottom, they are actually discussing about some kind of hybrid or synthetic form of central bank digital currency. And we here did a detailed video about synthetic form of CBDC, right? And in that aspect, XRP is going to be more suited for that, and it will be based on the central bank reserves. So it can be gold reserves, it can be forex reserves, every type of reserves will be allocated to this. This is another big research from Deloitte, and it's also talking about exchanging value, means of payment. The payment market is changing. This is also a huge document, but I have actually went through that, and I'll present what I felt like is necessary for us. What is changing here is the settlement between institutions, the instantaneous new payment mechanism. Now, this is actually working, and if you look here, you can actually understand they are highlighting XRP for Ripple. Finally, international transfers will migrate to a new peer-to-peer cryptocurrency based solution, where solutions native cryptocurrency and others are facilitating this process. Wow. If you remember the speech from CEO of Ripple, he actually told that we can directly go to JP Morgan and state this. If you want to send money to Japan, to this bank, you can use this. We'll provide that to you like this. So that's actually happening. Anyway, now moving on in the same document in the page 61, another thing is mentioned here, right? The peer-to-peer solution is correct and compliant with relevant national and international regulations, of which Ripple Labs may be a good example. Now, why I'm stating this? Financial institutions, financial service providers, banks, every shit actually have to be regulatory compliant. They can't actually do business outside that. So that is why, again, Chris Larsen and Brad Garlinghouse used to state the disruption is happening, but the evolution is not happening from outside. Instead, it is happening from the inside. Now, to end with, I'm showing this. Ripple meets with Central Bank of Brazil to address institutional matters. Now, this is the latest news, right? June 2nd. So, why this actually matters? Because institutions are not only doing this payments or transactions, they are also into investing. They are now looking at trading and custodying solution for XRP and other digital assets. Now that's not actually responding well. But anyway, I'll explain that. See, now this Ripple as a company is meeting with central banks. How many other digital asset providers are doing the same? It's less. And at the same time, the regulatory clarity is being granted to do cryptocurrency trading and custody. Now, once one country, another country goes, it will eventually reach a tipping point, or it will have to reach a tipping point, because otherwise businesses will move out. So central banks and regulators are now coming together and providing the regulatory clarity which is required for this space. So be ready, because we don't know when the tipping point is, but it's for sure it won't be too much late.